Hey everyone, this is Sean from Team 579, the Red Deer Nerf Herders. That is Nick. He is the head programmer. I'm the director of robotics. Uh, what I'm going to go over today is Java command-based programming. I haven't personally seen an overall awesome 10 out of 10 tutorial about it yet, so I'm going to go ahead and attempt at one. But maybe in the future I'll make one about installing Eclipse and all that, setting it all up. If not, just before you watch this video, go ahead and find a video that does that. I'll try linking one in the comment section or in the description section of YouTube. But anyhow, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So if you go up here to File and click New Project. Now there's two things here. There's a Robot Java project and an example Java project. Actually, first things. This is probably what it might look for you. So go ahead and go in the WPI lib. Robot Java development, and there is a example Robot Java project and the Robot Java project. We're going to end up using the Robot Java project, but just so you know what this is for, the example one, in here there is examples of just about everything you can possibly do with a robot. And like for example, there is Vision Color 2015, and then there's also the Gearsbot code for 1 year. I'm not sure what year it was, and then the Pack Goat team. I hope that's a team. I think so. Well, anyways, there's gyros. There's simple tank drive, mechanism drive. I don't see an arcade drive on here, surprisingly. Anyways, but you're gonna go ahead and select the Robot Java project. Click next, and you're gonna name it. Name it whatever you're using it for. For example, if this was my season code, I'd put 2017 FRC Steam Works. But since this isn't the season code for 2017, what I'm just going to name it is YouTube, since it's for YouTube. And you go ahead and click command-based robot, and go ahead and click finish. Now once it loads, you're going to go over here to the side, expand this, expand source, and expand all three of these packages. Now, these are packages and these are classes. This video series isn't meant to teach you guys raw Java code. It is meant for FRC code. So if you guys do not know like actual Java code, like the logic behind it, I suggest you go and learn it before you start these videos. It'll make so much more sense, and when it comes to fixing stuff or solving complicated issues, it is really nice to know this stuff. I'm talking from experience, by the way. First thing we're going to do here is we're going to go and open up Robot Map by double clicking it. In here, what you're going to do is you're pretty much assigning a name to a port. So, and their ports always are like for example, it could be your motor controllers, your PWM slots, and your Robo Rio, and all those stuff that gets plugged in there in that one spot on the. Anywho, you're gonna go here. This stuff you can read through if you want, but I don't need to. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna erase it, and I'm gonna enter one. Now, when you're doing this, you don't want to write all your code like this on the side here. So for example, if you noticed when I did this, it was indexed a little bit. It's just when it comes to fixing code, it's the flow of the code pretty much. Yeah, I like that. But anyways, that's what it's going to be. So what we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to create a public static final integer or int. So we're going to go public static final int. Now underneath this, what we're going to do is we're going to indent one. So whenever you go to a new line, you always indent one. For example, so you have this upper piece here. So when I went below, I indented. Down here, we need to drive left and drive right. So I'm going to go drive underscore left. Whenever you're creating names, remember if you're going to put a space in there, you have to use an underscore. A name has to be fully. So if I were to get rid of this underscore and replace it with a normal space on the keyboard, that would not work. See how this is only errored right here? So in order to create one full name, you have to have that underscore there. I'm going to go ahead and equal it to port 0, because in arrays in programming always start at 0. Never start at 1. They always start at 0. We're going to put a comma, go down, and go drive underscore right, equals 1, semicolon. I think that's what those are. Now that we have that, that's all we're going to do in here, so you need to go Control S to save it. If you don't want to use the shortcut, you can go up here and go, you click save right there, but shortcut Control S. Knowing a few shortcuts are really nice to have around. But the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and, we're actually going to go to the OI now. When we do a basic DriveTrain, we're going to have to make it so we can extract a joystick out of the OI. And what the OI is, operating interface, I believe that stands for. If I'm wrong, correct me please. The OI, pretty much, in here we're going to say, okay, this joystick exists, and now we're going to get buttons from and tie the buttons to an action. So in here what we're going to do is you guys, like I said, you can read over all these comments before you get them. You can pause the video, whatnot, catch up or whatever. But I'm going to delete them because I have already read them at one point, I think. Maybe, I don't know. But again, we're going to put another space in here so it's all structured correctly. So we're going to go enter 1, and we're going to go public OI. And then a parentheses, then go to the outside of parentheses and put brackets. Then you should have no errors at this point. You're going to go down below the closing bracket of the public OI. You're going to go public joystick get joystick, a parentheses, and open closing brackets again. Now this is going to be a problem right here because I believe you need to import it. Yes, so if you just take your mouse and don't click on it, just put your mouse over top to hover over it, this list will pop and then you just click import, and then your errors go away. Now this you will have to leave for now because we'll have to go up here. Now in here what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to create our first joystick. So we're going to go joystick driver equals new joystick parentheses comma. Now this is going to say it's wrong. The reason is because we got to put whatever USB port we plug it into, because on the driver station you have port 0, port 1, port 3, and I believe it goes up to 5. No, that's wrong. I think it goes up higher. Anyways, for now we're just put port 0. So now that has port 0 in there, we're going to go down here, and in the public here we're going to put return. Now whatever you name this joystick up here, this could be any name you want. Just make sure it makes sense. So what you're going to do is you're going to go return driver and then semicolon, and that's it for in here. So you can go save that, and then if you expand this and you notice that these aren't being used, you can go ahead and highlight these both and get rid of them. We won't be needing those, and you can go ahead and save it again. Now the next thing we're going to do is over here onto the side of the subsystem, you're going to right click on it. You're going to go new class. Now when you name a class, you're going to want to name it something that you understand. For example, this one I'm going to go DriveTrain. Now that I know this class is a DriveTrain, what it comes, apparently I found this out that other teams do, is they put an underscore, and for example this is subsystem, so they put subsystem. I spelled that wrong. There's an S there. And then you can go ahead and click finish once you got that. And apparently what that does by putting that subsystem there is when you're looking through a log of, like for example the real log here, when it says it's in an error at line 143 in class DriveTrain underscore subsystem, you know it's part of the subsystem package, which is this right here. So you know it's underneath here, then you just find the one that's named DriveTrain and you know it's in there at that line. So that's pretty much what that is for, apparently. I haven't personally done that yet, but I'm going to start doing that because it seems like it's helpful. But the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and open up the DriveTrain subsystem. You're going to go over here and you go extends. There's no S there. If I have terrible spelling like I normally do, it's probably because one, I'm tired. I've been up since 5. Oh, I'll be quiet now. You're going to do extends subsystem. Now if you do this right, the subsystem should become an error, and when you highlight it, it should say import subsystem. Now when it does that, it's going to say your name of your public class is wrong, and you're just going to do the same thing, but instead you're going to click that one. I'm not even going to attempt to say that. And then what that does is it pretty much adds this little box here. So we're going to eventually add a default command to it. So what that's going to do is when the robot starts up, that code is always going to run unless it gets interrupted. If it doesn't get interrupted, it will run. So for example, if we make a program where we hit a button, it drives forward and then drives back, it will do that, but once that's done, it'll go back to running this default command, whatever we set there, which will eventually be our arcade drive. Now, actually I'll explain that in a bit. Underneath, what we're going to do for now is we're going to go ahead and hit enter below this. We're going to make a couple methods. The first one's going to be public void teleop drive, parentheses, open closing brackets. Now with that, this is where we're going to have our driving done. This is where all the teleop driving is going to be done with the joystick. Now below this, what we're going to do is we're going to go public void stop. So whenever the later on, we'll be calling this here, whatever we put in here, to pretty much say, okay, if this gets interrupted, stop the drivetrain, then continue on what you're gonna do. And then, so now that we have the 3 things we need for now, we're gonna go ahead and make a little space up here. This is where we're gonna make our robot drive, our main drive train, pretty much. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set it to private, so only this class can access the main drive. It's not necessary, but you know it's no other class is gonna try using it, and I don't know why they would, but you know, I'd do it anyway. So you're gonna go put robot drive. Oh, you're gonna name your drivetrain something. I'm gonna do main drive because I know that whatever main drive is, that's the left and right motors or motor controllers, whatever you want to say. So I'm gonna go main drive equals new robot drive. Now we're gonna do a parentheses. Inside these parentheses, we're gonna go to the robot map and get our drive left and drive right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go robot map capital M dot, give it a minute to load. Eventually it'll load a list of the stuff. Okay, maybe it'll just break instead. Well, let's so good night so far, I guess. There we go. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and use the arrow keys, or that's what I like to do, is I like to use the arrow keys on my keyboard here, and I'm gonna select the drive left. And now we're gonna do a comma, and we're gonna do the same thing with the drive right. Or robot map dot, please don't take long. Hurry. Oh my goodness, this is terrible. Oh, what is this? No, stop, stupid thing. Ignore that error. That should not happen on your guys's. That is probably just something with my computer and the way I have like 3 different workstations to have set up, and I just rickrolled myself. I'm listening to music in the background and I just got rickrolled. Well, and you're gonna put a semicolon at the end of that. Now these are gonna be errors. What you're gonna do is you can click import robot drive, or yeah, robot drive. So now that's done. Now in here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do main drive.arcade drive. So we're gonna main drive dot arcade drive. Now in here, this is where it gets different. We're gonna go driver. Now, that makes no sense right now because inside of this parenthesis we're going to do joystick driver. Bye. Sorry, I'm singing along. Okay, anyway. What this is doing is pretty much asking for a joystick. And you give it the joystick, any joystick you want. And then it says, it assigns it a name pretty much. You'll see later. But again, we're going to have to import joystick. Because they don't know what that is. So then you should have no errors at this point. Now in the public void stop, we're going to go main drive dot arcade drive. Oh no, I'm wrong. Ignore that. You're going to do dot drive 0 and 0. And you're going to save that. Now, next thing is we're going to click on the commands here, I believe. Correction, no we're not. We're going to go to the robot.java. And in here, you see this right here? We're pretty much going to copy this, but instead of it being the example subsystem, we are going to do DriveTrain underscore subsystem. So we're going to go public static final. Now, be careful. You don't want to. You want whatever you type in here to match that name there. So, for example, I'm going to have DriveTrain underscore subsystem. Double check, make sure it's working. Then we're going to go. This is the name, so it doesn't have to match anything. So you just go DriveTrain equals new DriveTrain underscore subsystem parentheses semicolon. Now, oh, it worked this time. Okay, so in case if this import doesn't pop up, double check your spelling, and if everything's correct, it should pop up. But if not, I'm going to show you guys a way to get around it. Because I know Eclipse can have a bug where it won't let you import it. So what we can do is this line of code right here. After expanding the imports. So you click the little plus there. You're going to find this line of code right here. You're going to copy it. Go at the end of that, enter. So now you're in line 10. Paste it, and you replace example subsystem with DriveTrain underscore subsystem. And now, if your spelling's correct, you should have everything done. And now we can save that. Now what we just did is we said, okay, any class in this project can access that class. So, for example, I could go inside of example command and access DriveTrain. It's just pretty much, instead of importing the DriveTrain class to every single individual class, this is like the master class. I don't know. It's like the one ring, I guess. It controls all the others. Oh, so you're going to go ahead and right click on the commands package here. And we're going to go into new class, and then now this is going to be our default command for our DriveTrain. What it is arcade drive. So I'm going to put in arcade drive. Remember, underscore command. Now, I never really talked to you. I'm not sure if you guys know about, for your rookie teams out there, I'm not sure if you really know about the whole arcade versus tank drive, but really, tank drive, if you've ever seen a Bobcat or like a tank, really anything with two tracks on the side that don't have turning wheels, it's pretty much taking two controllers and either push them both forward to go forward, pull them both backward to go in reverse, or you do opposites. So one would go forward, one would go backward to turn, and then the opposite of that would be the other way. Now arcade drive, it's all one stick. So you turn it left and you turn left. You turn it, or you tilt it right, it goes right. You go forward, it goes forward. Backward is backward. So if you wanted to do tank drive in the DriveTrain subsystem here, you could just replace arcade drive with tank drive and just enter your controllers that it wants. You know what, I'll do it real quick so you guys can see. Go to my main drive, tank drive. Now it wants two values. And what this is you have your left controller and your right controller. So up here you'd actually want to ask for two controllers. So what you do is joystick driver 2. And then in here you go like, for example, driver dot gets X. You do the same thing over here, but you'd use the drive 2. Now I would go over mechanism drive, but I haven't done that yet, so I don't want to give you guys false info. But I'm gonna leave this here. I'm gonna go ahead and comment this out though for now, because I only want arcade drive to be active. I'm gonna head back to my arcade drive underscore command. Now in here what we're gonna do is we're gonna go extends command, and what you're gonna do is the same thing. You're gonna it does this too. I don't know why. If this happens, just put an S at the end and erase it, and then it'll work. I don't really know why it does that. But you're gonna import command, and then you're gonna go highlight this and add the unimplemented stuffs. But in here, what we're gonna do is, now I made the mistake of adding a requires piece inside the initialize here. Do not do that. When you have like pneumatics or something, what this section of the code is to do is to say, okay, in order to bring up the arm, I want to make sure it's down. So you say, okay, set arm. You make it so it goes down, and then it executes the up command. That's one example of what that's for. We'll get into that later when I start going into more pneumatic stuff and whatnot. But for now, you can ignore the initialize. The only three things we need to do in here is the protected void execute, the end, and the interrupted. Now, what we're going to do in the execute is we're going to go robot dot DriveTrain, because that's what we named it in the robot.java. That's the name right here. So that's where that name comes from. And then you're going to do dot, for example, we want arcade drive, so we're going to go oh no, it's Teliop drive. I forgot. So now, see what I just did is I wanted this here. So that's what you're going to do, dot whatever you name that. And I thought I named it arcade drive, but I named Teliop drive and I messed up. But anyways, now it's asking for two controllers. If you're doing arcade drive, you only need to enter one controller. But if you're doing Teliop or tank drive, you're going to want two controllers. So in order to tank drive, you're going to have to create a second joystick, a second one of these, which I'll actually do real quick. So you guys, if you want, you can do this. Driver 2, because you can't have two joysticks that are the same name. It just don't work like that. If I were you guys, I'd come up with a little bit more creative names than I am. I'm just going on the fly. And remember, it's an array, so it starts at 0, then goes to 1. Always count up. Don't cut backward. That don't work. So we're gonna pretty much, what we can do here is we can copy this here, and we can paste it. Now this name here is what it's like .get joystick. So what we can do here is we can go driver .get driver. Maybe this, or not. Maybe not. Maybe this is the name. Yeah, okay, yeah, there we go. So we're gonna add get driver joystick. Then in here we're gonna go get driver 2 joystick. Now in here we're gonna put that to 2. So now you can call two separate controllers from here. So let's go ahead and head back to arcade drive. So it wants a driver. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go robot.oi. Remember, just make sure your caps are set, otherwise it won't work. So you see how we got get driver joystick here and get driver 2 joystick? We're gonna go ahead and click get driver joystick, and we're gonna do the same thing here. Now remember, if you're doing arcade drive, you only need one joystick. So you wouldn't have to create a second joystick. You wouldn't have to create another return, but it's optional. It's your team will have to figure out what you guys want to do, and then you go from there. Then you're gonna click .get driver to joystick. Now that is done pretty much. That portion. So you can save it real quick. We're gonna scroll down here. Now, when this ends, we're gonna set the DriveTrain so it doesn't do anything. So it sets 0. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go robot dot drivetrain dot stop down here, right there. And now what that does is that calls this here code, which sets both the left power and the right power to 0. Now, when it gets interrupted, we want to do the same thing. So instead of adding that same line of code down here, what we can do is simply just call the end method by typing in that. So if it gets interrupted, it calls this here. So now we are done in here. So now we're going to go ahead back into the DriveTrain subsystem here. And what we are going to do is add a default command. So let me see if I can remember this code, because the code that I'm referring off doesn't have it. Now when I'm doing this, I don't have it. Don't even try to memorize all this stuff. Well, if you want you can, but I can pretty much say it's gonna be near impossible. It's pretty hard. There's a lot of stuff when it, like, as long as you know what to do, you're good. So for example, I don't remember exactly how to do this, what the exact line of code is. So I'm gonna go ahead and run into my test code here and get the code real quick. Set default command. Okay, that's pretty easy. So we're gonna go set default command. Now inside here, we're gonna call the arcade drive command. So in here, what we're gonna go is new arcade drive underscore command parentheses, and of course your semicolon. Now it's gonna be errors. Of course, you gotta import it. If there's errors, make sure if it needs to be imported, you import it. Now of course there's a syntax error. Oh yes, so when you import, like when you say new, whenever you say new command, you always have to have those so you can pass variables. Now you can save that. Now let me think real quick. If I remember correctly, if you were to run this code to your robot, you'd have a functioning drivetrain code. But I'm gonna go in a little bit more in depth here now. So for say you ran your code and the turning's inverted or the forward and backwards inverted, you can either switch these in the wiring or you could do it in here. Now how you do this is you can actually go to the arcade drive here, and now the arcade drive uses a Y and an X. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to get we're gonna go driver.get. Now I don't remember if it's X or Y first. I don't know if it matters. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna pretty much say negative dot your negative X. Okay, you have your plane here. You have your Y and your X. The X is your turning. So if your turning is inverted, you're gonna add a negative sign in front of the dot get X. Excuse me. If your forward backwards inverted, you're gonna add the negative sign in front of your driver dot get Y, and that should solve. Rerun your code, and that should solve your inverted stuff. So you can go ahead and say that. Now you should have a fully functional robot. Same thing with you guys using tank drive. If you have issues with your tank drive, all you do is say one of yours is inverted, so when you put one forward, one backwards, it goes forward, even though they both should be forward. All you do is figure out which one it is and add a negative inside in front of it and it inverts it. Pretty simple. If I remember right, on my bot, that one will have to be changed. So I'm going to save that. So this includes, or ends this video, whatever. DriveTrain, the next video will be adding like an ARM mechanism with normal motors, with buttons and joystick control. And then I think a video after that I'll do a short autonomous, possibly. And in those next two videos, if there's something that is wrong or if you see an error, please tell me that I can correct it, because I am